Titles are given to us all throughout our life, including when we're born. I mean, you're a child, you're a baby, you're a brother, a sister, a male, a female. You're given all these titles immediately that have responsibilities and archetypal relationships linked to them. So there's immediately things expected of you, and you expect things of others due to that relationship and title immediately. I do think there should be some distinctions for how much a title is really being lived up to and how exemplary a person is of that title. So what I'll be doing essentially is splitting title into 3 different words. Title is not going to entirely die and be gone from my vocabulary in this scenario, but it is only applicable in some situations now. Because if someone meets the responsibilities of their title, they kind of just basically fulfill it, they're fairly normal in what you would expect of that title, it can just be called a title. Then we have a variation for really not meeting that and then really exceeding that. When you truly just don't take on the responsibilities of a title, you're a very far deviation of what you're expected to be and what you're supposed to be. This is going to be called Emptytle. And that basically is an empty title. You can see the entire word of empty is in there. And unfortunately, these are not uncommon. You see plenty of Emptitles around you all the time. People not fulfilling their responsibilities. I'm sure everyone watching this is familiar with them. Maybe it's a dad who was never present in your life and didn't fulfill those responsibilities. That's totally an Emptytle if they're not present in your lives. It could be a boss that's unwilling to give direction, inspire, lead. Or maybe it's a friend that isn't willing to engage or sacrifice or be there for you. There's so many examples as there are so many titles. But you can tell when people are not living up to those expectations. And a good example, if you're not sure, is if you feel like you always have to say but after giving their title. If you have to say, yeah, I have a dad, but he was never around growing up. That's a very obvious sign of an Emptytle. If your actual situation is very different from what people are going to originally imagine when you tell them the title, that usually means that it's not really a title, it's an Emptytle, or the opposite version of that, which is going to be Totitle, because you totally fulfill that title, and then also usually you're exceeding it and doing more too. These are a bit more rare. It's not an easy thing to see your title and really try to push past it. You need some ambition for that, and it's very easy to stay restrained to what you're supposed to be. But if you're gonna be different than what you're supposed to be, I really hope that you're trying to be more. That's absolutely what we need more of. Because even though titles can be bars that you're supposed to live up to and try to reach, they can also be ceilings and restraints, if you let them be. This can be really common in like a work environment. If you feel like something isn't your job, or you're like, oh, it's not my responsibility, I'm not going to go fix this. I totally understand that thinking. However, if you want to be more, if you want a better title, if you want to move past your own title and think you're above it, you gotta show that you are, and you have to do more. Because if you stay restrained by your title, then people will think that it's appropriate. So if you think you're more than it, do more than it. So those are the 3 variations. If they really don't meet the standard, Emptytle. If it's fairly normal, they're doing basically what they should, title. If they're really exceeding it and seem like they should do more and they really realistically need a better title, Totitle. I want to cap this off a little bit about talking about maybe some personal examples and also how I think you should approach these different titles to navigate them well. And I guess we'll start with Emptytles. I think one of the most important things with Emptytles is recognizing that they're there. Because there's certain titles that are traditionally going to expect a lot of you and could potentially be extremely significant. An example of one of the biggest Emptytles around me is my brother. I've never had a good relationship with him my entire life. I kind of always tried to be friendly with him, but it was never reciprocated. It was fairly abusive at times, and now we just never really talk or have any connection. And that's kind of how I think we're just both leaving it at this point. And it mostly feels like to me that I just don't have a brother, and in what most people view as a brother, I really never did. So me identifying that that's an Emptytle is actually very good. If I tried to be extremely engaged and try to do all this important stuff for him and pour all this energy into him, it would be taken advantage of and just about never beneficial to me, and it would just be very draining to me. So once you realize something's an Emptytle, you don't have to continue to meet the standards that they're not. You can if you want, you can if you think it's sustainable, and you can if you think they're going to change. If you think you can help that person that is in the Emptytle situation reach their title, you can feel free to continue doing that. Especially if you don't think that there's a different option or a different person that could fulfill that title, or just the responsibilities that you're looking for traditionally from that title. But if it's been 20 plus years and nothing seems to change, and at their core of a person, you don't think they're going to get past an Emptytle, I think it's good to move on. That's definitely obviously where I'm at. And I think if you have a lot of Emptytles in your life, I don't think searching for more of that title is always going to be the best thing for you. Really what you should look at is, okay, this is what this title is supposed to provide. Their responsibilities, their goals, their engagement. Try to find the things that you need instead of the title of the person that's supposed to bring it to you. Because you very well could just get another Emptytle, because not everyone is going to fulfill their responsibilities, because it's damn hard to live up to a title. So one of the best things you can do is find what you need from a person and what they can give you and what those interactions can be like for both of you. And they can grow into and earn that title instead of it just being gifted to them and they may never deserve it. And then on the flip side of things, for Totitle, I kind of covered this, but essentially, if you can tell someone's got a Totitle, that really means that you have to treat them as if they have a higher title, or you give them a higher title, because they've earned it. You have to let them be the extraordinary things that they're showing that they can be, and make sure you do not restrict them to just being that. And I really think that you should not be afraid to reach that Totitle area and be restrained by just a title. An example where I feel like this has played out in my life, where I was afraid to go to the Totitle status. I remember it stuck out very clearly to me. I was in Australia. There was a girl that I liked and I talked to for a while. She did have a boyfriend, however, and towards the end of our trip, I was about to have to come back through COVID, and I really wanted to buy her a panda hat that has like straps that like goes down, because she put it on and it was the absolute cutest thing I'd maybe seen in my entire life. And what I ended up deciding is like, okay, you're not her boyfriend, you're her friend. Step back, don't do it. And I still kind of regret it, because not all titles are permanent. She ended up not having a boyfriend later on in the future, but if you have evidence that you would fit a title like that, and you show someone that you can be more, I don't think that's a bad thing. I'm not saying I should have made moves on her or try to have her cheat on her boyfriend or anything. I'm just saying I shouldn't have restrained myself in my affection and my feelings just because I was trying to fit into a title and not go into a zone where she already had that title filled, which must have ended up being an Emptytle, you know? So I think the main takeaway from this title talk should be that you should try to aspire to meet responsibilities that are expected of you, so you do not become an Emptytle. However, if you think you're capable of more and you want to be more, do not be restrained by that title. Push forward. That is, I think, the approach that needs to be taken, and I think the focus needs to be on the responsibilities and the interactions that go with each title and fulfilling those, because the titles themselves are going to have ridiculous variance in how well they are actually being fulfilled. Also, quick side note, I think that this titling structure that I made for like relationships with people also going to apply to YouTube videos. Just videos and titling of things in general. So like if something's just clickbait garbage that doesn't add up at all, definitely going to be an Emptytle. So I think that's like a good add-on here too. There's your life lesson through Wiplish today. Let's move on to our song and video of the day. I went with kind of a Lil Dicky theme here, and I don't want to like hate on Lil Dicky too much for this, but I feel like as a rapper, he somewhat has an Emptytle at this point. Not due to talent in any way. That's kind of the opposite of what I'm going to try to get across here. But with Lil Dicky, it kind of feels like he was a politician that made like a ton of promises, and then once he got in office, he just decided to not do anything. That's the vibes that I get from Lil Dicky here. Because coming up, he was kind of talking about like how he's trying to change rap, trying to take over the rap game, and had all these ideas and ambitions. And he put out some awesome music, even outside of his funny stuff. But he kind of just released one album, and then I think it's been, I don't know, 5-6 years since that, with only releasing Earth, which not a very good song at all, in my opinion, and quite a deviation from his other stuff. But that's why I decided to do Lil Dicky. The song of the day is The Antagonist by Lil Dicky, a more serious one by him. Goes really hard, and it does talk about kind of like his motives and aspirations and stuff like that throughout it, and a song that I think is quite good. Then the video of the day is one of his freestyles, probably one of the first ones that I think blew up on like Sway's Universe thing. I think this is a radio channel, I'm not certain. But it was just an awesome freestyle. Lil Dicky has a lot of really good ones. They're not freestyles in the sense where he's coming up with everything off the top of his head. Like these are all pre-planned, the ones that he does. But they're still very impressive nonetheless. And I've probably watched this freestyle maybe 100+ times, honestly, like through the last couple of years. It's one that I enjoy a lot. But that will do it for the Daily Do. Peace out.